It's time for Tab Talks, your weekly conversation about matters of faith. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash.
And I'm your co-host, Debbie Campbell.
Football season may look a little different this year, definitely feels a little different, but our team colors, they run true. And that brings in the rivalries as well. And if you're here in Alabama, you know what rivalries we are talking about. You've got to be Alabama or Auburn, and you've got to pick. Dell Didway is joining us this week to share a little bit about how he took that rivalry to a new level and has developed two devotional books, one for the Auburn believer and one for the Bama believer. Dell, welcome.
Well, thank you. And obviously Bama, Bama's big, Auburn's big, rivalries are big up here in Ohio as well. We have a big one up here that we may not see this year. So it's a little different this year. So we're still waiting to hear word from the Big Ten. It seems to be like a soap opera. But right now we're excited that Bama believer and Auburn believer launched last month. And, we're just making do with what we have now. We had some things planned, some promotional items planned through New Hope Publishers and Iron Stream Media. But, those are on hold right now. So we're just doing what we can to tell everybody about these books.
Well, you're in the Buckeye State. You are a lifelong Ohioan. How do you say that, Ohioan? And
Buckeye.
Buckeye.
Why not pick Alabama and Auburn? How'd you dip down here? SEC, it just means more. We know that, but what you got?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously with these books, it was kind of, I wrote a book about 4 years ago about Ohio State. And then my literary agent who played at Michigan, we kind of had a deal that I had to write a book about Michigan. So we did that. And then the publishers that we've, with Iron Stream Media and New Hope Publishers, who I had 2 books out with last year, we kind of pushed this idea to them. They liked it. And the devotional rivalries, with Auburn and Alabama. So it just made sense. It was fun to write. And hopefully we'll capture that rivalry and be able to tell others about the good news of Christ through these books. And that's the whole intent.
Well, I had a chance just to go online and read a devotion out of each one. I was fair. I did all Alabama.
Good job.
And I did Auburn. And I really liked what I read. And could you tell us a little bit more what readers will find in that when they read a devotion,
Yeah, well,
it's a little different.
There are, and I have fun doing these because I get to learn about some of the history of each school, and I enjoy that. I mean, growing up, I spent some years as a sports writer. I covered a lot of games. Never had the chance to cover Alabama or Auburn, but was able to go back and do a lot of research on great plays, great moments, great players, not so great plays or players or moments too, and a lot of history about these story programs. A lot, all these big successful programs have some really unique history about their programs and about the university that I enjoyed reading. And each chapter is pretty brief. They're 800, 900, 1,000 words per chapter, and the intent is to give you a boost, whether you pick it up in the morning before work, or if you just get home and you want a little pick me up or something. Maybe you've had a bad day. You can read one of these in 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then we relive a moment, and then we have a life lesson related to that moment, and then we have a little devotional or a call to action from that moment and how it relates to everybody, because football and athletics is a lot like what we face every day. And so we try to take those instances and try to make it relatable to everyday life. And so that's what they'll find. They'll find great history. They'll find fantastic plays, or just maybe that one moment that defines somebody, or that one play that made somebody memorable in time, that everybody remembers that play. So, or in some instances, not so great moments, and how you can learn from them. So, because we're not going to win every day. We're going to get beat, and we're going to get face to feet. So I try to throw in some encouragement and some motivation, but always try to have a good message about Christ in each devotional, so they can take something away from it and they can relate it to their everyday life.
Being the Bama fan here, I can imagine which of the not so great moments you have picked, and we'll just skip right on over those and not have to deal with that today. But but how did you decide with all that you had to pick from? I'm sure you had lots of good moments and lots of bad moments. How did you pick? How did you narrow those down?
Well, it was just going back through history. I mean, just going back and researching, great plays in 1950 or 1960, and then just compiling things that interest me. Because if it interests me, then obviously I'm a better time writing about it. So that's how I did that. I would kind of go back and do some research on it, and then find that play or that moment or that game or something, and say, aha, that's what I want to write about, and I'll put this one in. So I tried to take something timely, from each decade, dating way back. But then obviously the more relevant ones, stick out. People will recall them more. So I had a good time finding out historical things and not putting them in everything, but just researching it, finding out really cool things about the tradition of Alabama and the tradition of Auburn football, and then putting those down. And so that was it. It takes a while to research it, but it's fun. I mean, I don't spend 24 hours a day doing it, but just going back through history, and whether there's a lot of search engines out there, and going on Alabama and Auburn's pages and just going back and just reflecting. And so that's how I do that. And it takes me just a few months to research them, and then it doesn't take me long to write them, but it takes a lot of time to find out what I'm going to write about. And then once I hone in on it, then it's totally my discretion. I'll pick certain games, certain plays and players, and then some of them are well known, some of them are pretty obscure that you may not realize happened or know about. I mean, so like one of them I found out really interesting in the Auburn book was about the old oak trees and when the oak trees were poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of go in that. I kind of use that. That's actually one of my oak trees is, plant your own oak trees, and because something's out there going to damage you. If somebody's out there want to try to get you, and they want you down, they want you defeated. So I kind of use that's not football, but it's all the pep rallies took place there, and it had a lot of his historical impact. So that was one of them about Auburn was the old oak trees.
Well, I know these devotions, I believe it's 40 days, 40. And is there something special? I know you did so much research. Was there a reason that you narrowed it down to just 40?
That's what my agent told me to do.
Oh.
Media, they're pretty sharp.
That's good. Thought maybe there was a reason for the 40 rather than 30 or.
I asked that because I've done 52 chapters for a book we just recently published, 52 chapters for obviously one a week. My first book was 40 days for the Ohio State faithful. And it's just the theme, it just kind of stuck. And it just seems like it doesn't make the book too big or too small. So I think somebody can read that and it's 30 to 40 days so they can give themselves a good pace. I don't feel inundated with, oh my gosh, I got to read something every week for a year or every day for a year. So I think it's more manageable, especially if you're on the go or if you have a fast paced lifestyle. But some of these, you can read these pretty quickly. Some of them, I mean, their intent is to read a chapter a day for, a month or two, but they're pretty quick. And some people go through them pretty quickly, but that's fine. So set your own pace. Like I said, they're pretty quick to go through. They're about 1,000 words max. So they're fun. They're upbeat. They're quick. I don't linger on topics very long. I get in, get out, get to my point, and try to encourage somebody to do that way.
Definitely for the sports fanatic, I guess, right? The sports fan will enjoy bopping through those quickly.
I think so. And, the intent, obviously, the main audience, not the main audience, but it's geared more towards men, more towards your fathers. But a lot of the wives and girlfriends are the ones who pick up the books and buy them. So it's really for anybody. And you don't have to be an Alabama or Auburn fan. If you like college football, if you like rivalries, because there's a lot in there about the Iron Bowl, obviously. In each book, there's probably 10 chapters each in each book on Iron Bowl games and Iron Bowl moments and the national championship moments and so forth. So, anybody who likes college football, I think, will like these. and hopefully be encouraged by them. I think New Hope Publishers and Iron Stream Media did a fantastic job on these covers. They're really, they kind of pop out at you. So if you're in a bookstore and you see them, there's Bama Believer with, with the elephant there, which is fantastic. And then here's
Roll
all,
Tide, Roll Tide.
yeah.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
the tiger. It's a good looking book.
There's the War Eagle.
War Eagle, Roll
Tiger.
Tide. And so I give a little history on those, how those came about, because I didn't know that. So it's just, it's a lot of fun to write these books, a lot of fun to research them. I'm working on one right now that'll be out next year. So it's just a lot of enjoyment, a lot of, it's entertaining. I like history, so I like to learn about programs. I mean, when I wrote the book about Michigan, it was tough for me to do, but we did it. And I learned a lot about the program, and I enjoyed that. I enjoy learning.
You're listening to Tab Talks. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash, here with co-host Debbie Campbell, and we are talking with author Dale Duduit about his new devotionals, Auburn Believer and Bama Believer. All right, these 40-day devotionals, they're already out, right? So they're out there. You can get these. Tell us how a sports writer became a devotional writer. What's your connection there?
Well, I was a sports writer out of college. That was my first job I ever had out of college, probably, and the funnest job I've ever had today. And I'd like to get back into it full time. I did it here locally. I never intended to be one; just kind of happened, and I enjoyed it so much. And I won some Associated Press writing awards, and I thought, this is the best job in the world. I get to go write ball games and go watch a ball game for free, and then tell everybody about it. I got to meet some phenomenal people on the way, but then, in a small town, working at a small town newspaper, kids come along, you're married, you just can't financially afford it. So I had to get out of the media, which I really love the media, and I do a lot of it still, but I had to go a different direction for about 20 years, and so I'm trying to get back into it. But I always dabbled in writing. I would write for some faith-based organizations like Sports Spectrum, and always wanted to do something, but I didn't know what. Everybody has their callings, and I couldn't find mine. And it kind of got frustrating enough because my wife's, played the piano and sings, and both my boys at a certain age accepted the call to preach. And so here I was, my mid 40s, not doing anything, and it bothered me. But I didn't just want to do anything. I mean, I always, wanted to do like a mission trip and never had any direction. So, so we had about 5 years ago, we had, our family had this kind of tragic event happen. And in that, my wife kind of was instrumental, and she suggested I start writing about it. And so I did. And so I put together this, and again, without intention, this manuscript develops. And so I don't know what to do with it. I had this book, that I wrote, and I reached out to who's now a dear friend of mine who I didn't know at the time. I didn't know, I had no social media presence at all. Reached out to this person on LinkedIn that had a similar background to mine, and I said, "Hey, I'm not a stalker, but can you, we have similar backgrounds, and I have some questions for you." And ironically, she replied and put me on a path. And she said, you need to develop a website, you need to start blogging, you need to go to writing conferences. And so I did all this within like a year. I did all these things she told me to do, and then went to a writing conference down in Asheville, North Carolina, and then went to another one down in Florida, and met this lady who now we just wrote a book together, and met my agent down in Florida. And we were having dinner with a publisher one night, and I was showing him some of my sports background, so some of my writing background, where I'd interviewed some players for some magazines. And he said to me, sitting at dinner, he said, "Have you ever thought about doing a devotional, with athletes?" And I said, "No, I never wanted to write a book. I was never on my radar." And so he left, and my agent and I started talking, and he says, "Hey, this guy wants you to do something. Why don't you do this?" So I went back home and then started interviewing these professional baseball players. I would go to Reds games and Indians games and talk to these players down in the clubhouse. And this book just happened. And so I started putting together my interviews and telling stories. So, and so Dugout Devotions was born there. And so Dugout Devotions is not about baseball. It's about these well-known players who play the game, who have struggles like you and I, and how they get through them. So I just happened to use all-star recognizable names who I was able to interview and get their stories of faith. So that's how that happened. And then he said, well, why don't you write a devotional about Ohio State? And so I said, okay, sure. I did that. And boom, it happened. And then it just kind of, picked up momentum and then snowballed. So here I was, middle age, had no desire to write a book ever. And now I've within 4 years, I have 8 published books, 4 next year, 3 after the 3 in 2022. So it just took off. And I didn't really know how to write a devotional. I had to go take some classes and research them because I wanted, it's this big novel, and I didn't want to say, oh, I don't want to write a devotional. That's below me. So that was my initial thought, was I don't want to write a devotional. So I looked at him. I thought, I can aspire. I can do something. I can do good with these. And so I did, and researched them and developed my own style, because some of them I didn't like. So I came up with my own style, my own format. And I believe, my agent says I have the touch of God on me or something like that. Or he says I had the favor of God on me, so I'm like, I think because I'm able to get to these professional athletes and talk to them when a lot of people can't. I mean, I was able to land an exclusive with Tim Tebow. And I'm not a big media guy. I'm basically, in the eyes of the media, I'm a nobody. But I'm able to get to these guys and talk to them about their faith. So that's just what's happened over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, I have a lot to tell you, but I don't have enough time. But it's been a fantastic voyage so far, and it's been fun and exciting, and getting to do shows like this, and flying down to Atlanta to be on a television show to talk about these books. Never intended this at all when I was, in my 40s.
Well, how has the pandemic affected your writing and what you're doing right now? Have you noticed a change?
Yes and no. The pandemic has the reaction to the pandemic has stifled some of our promotional activities, but we're okay. Like my agent and I we had a book about Michigan released a couple of months ago. We were going to go up there because he played for Michigan, so we were going to do some things up there. Didn't happen. We were planning to come down to Alabama, and we were making inroads of getting in with the team and talking to Coach Saban. Not going to happen this year. So it's kind of stifled that, but it also on the other end, there may not be as much football. So people who want to read and see the game, see something about it, might want to pick up the book now, because they may not be able to go to the game. So they can watch it. But so that's how it's kind of limited it somewhat, but other doors have opened to where we have to be more creative and publicize a little bit more. And that takes a lot of time, but it is fun. We enjoy it. So the book signings, the appearances that we've done in the past with some big names didn't happen this year. I have not been able to go to any ball games this year. Just got turned down for the first time to go to the Indianapolis 500, the Kentucky Derby. I typically go to those. Couldn't go this year. So college football still on my radar. Professional football, I'm not so sure right now because of what's happening with them, if I'll ever even want to go back there. So with their stances. So I think I'm gonna stick with college right now because it seems to be more people have more passion right now for college football. Big Ten, we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. It's up and down every day if they're going to play or not. So,
oh, come on, the SEC's already got this figured out.
I know, and then so there was stuff, but the Big Ten keeps waffling every day about it. So it's just frustrating. But we did a YouTube show this week about that. We said, hey, if there's no college football, if there's no Michigan Ohio State football, I still get my books.
That's right. Good. Well, New Hope Publishers and Iron Stream Media, we have a connection. Obviously, they are headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama, so we're connected to them. Tell us how you got connected with Iron Stream Media.
I love working with them, obviously. I have 4 books out now with them. I will have 2 more next year. The sequels to the Dugout Devotions and First Down Devotions. So
how do you have a sequel to a devotion?
Yeah, they did so well that they wanted a volume 2 of each.
Wow, okay.
So I spent last year doing research, but how I met them was, oddly enough, the publisher who pitched me Dugout Devotions at that Florida conference, this year, they actually turned it down when it came time to put. It was their idea.
Oh, no.
They, at the end, after I did all these interviews, turned it down. Like, you're crazy. And my agent and I were so frustrated. We're like, how in the world, this is your idea, and you're saying no? And so a year later, it was actually a year later that I was at the same conference, and Iron Stream Media was there. I didn't know that. They were relatively new publishers. They were relatively new. Kyle told me, my agent says, go talk to Ramona Richards. So I sat down with Ramona, and I was pitching her the idea of this book. I said, I got this great devotional with all these big name players in it. And it was really odd because I had become friends with a certain well-known professional baseball coach. And I mean, we talked a lot, and he follows my blog, and he did a video for me. And just so happens, we're sitting there talking about this book. She says, what endorsements can you get? And I said, well, who do you want? She says, well, can you get, I don't know, Clint Hurdle? And I said, I sure can. I said, I have it right here on my phone. And I had this video where Clint had just done for me the week before, him saying, hey, this is Clint Hurdle, manager of the Pirates. You need to get Dugout Devotions by my friend Dell. And she's like, so she called John Herring over, and we had a discussion. And pretty soon, they got with my agent, and we had a really good agreement. Then they said, can you do one for the NFL? And I said, sure. So I went down to games and met with really well-known players, and got their testimonies. And First Down Devotions, developed. And so those did really, really well. And they did so well that they said, hey, can we do another volume? Let's do volume 2. I said, sure. And those will be out next year. I wrote them last year, so they'll be published. I think Dugout will be out in February. I'm not sure on that, but I think the last time it was around spring training. So that's what Dugout Devotions 2 should hit the stands. So hit the bookstores.
Well, that's exciting. As you're thinking about, especially, I told you I have a grandson who is into baseball big time. And so would you recommend these for, middle school or on up, or high school or as well?
I had a one mom on a baseball team bought a copy for all the players on the team.
Oh.
And I went and spoke to this team. And it was her idea. She called me. She says, Dale, can I get 45 of your books? I said, well, sure. And then I've had a couple other people message me who I don't know, said, hey, we just bought this for our entire team. And we bought these for our Pee Wee players. And like, that's awesome. And I had a note sent to me from a gentleman I don't know the other day on Facebook, and I won't take the time to look for it, but I don't know this gentleman. He sent me this message on Messenger saying, Dallas, I just want you to know that I'm reading your First Down Devotions to my class every day. I'm like, wow. And so I get messages. I got a message from a young man I don't know out in Colorado who said my Dugout Devotions has inspired him to do the same thing. And I was like, wow, this is really neat. So that helps me. That gives me validation. I guess I need that. So that's the reward, that I'm getting on that is it's impacting people's lives so far. And on Amazon, Dugout's considered a bestseller, and it's done really, really well. And because it's a crossover, it goes over in the Christian market and in the general market. And I think that's the niche. People want this. When we did a book signing in New York City for Dugout Devotions when it first launched, we were at the book expo. And here I am, this Christian author in a pretty secular show. The Book Expo America is fantastic, but it's predominantly secular and pretty liberal, actually. So we're sitting there, and I have my book signing time, and I'm thinking, there's nobody going to show up for this. I'm going to look like an idiot. Because I see all these big named authors, and then they have a line of people waiting to get their book, and here comes Dell, who nobody knows. And so I go to my table at the assigned time, and I look out, and there's like 60 people in line. I'm like, holy cow, this is really cool. And Iron Stream had sent 200 books to sign for an hour, and I thought I'm going to have like 185 to take home with me. And that wasn't the case. I got rid of almost all of them. People wanted that book, and it was really
Wow.
amazing. It was really touching.
That is-
Signed for an hour. I think I sold, we gave away 170 some books. So it was really awesome.
That's
Maybe
fantastic.
they do want it.
Well, tell us how to get your book.
We can go on Amazon, obviously. You can find those on Amazon. You can go on to Iron Stream Media or else New Up Publishers to find the ones that I've written there. I've written Dugout Devotions for First Time Devotions, Bama Believer, Auburn Believer. They're all on New Hope Publishers. Right now, if a Barnes and Noble's open, you can hopefully find Dugout and First Down, and Books a Million has them. We know Costco has placed a big buy recently, so or you can go to my website deldidway.com, and I have links there too. So again, your standards, Amazon, wherever books are sold, kind of thing. So that's where you can find them, and people are finding them. So that makes me feel good.
That's great. Well, Dell, thank you. Thanks for sharing with us, and thanks for helping us get a little bit more into the football spirit. So we're excited about that. And we will be checking out your books as well.
Roll Tide and War Eagle, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week.